This is critical to succeeding with business. Eventually we came back from that point and the store went on to make millions of pounds in sales very profitably over the next few years. But now what I do is
why new dropshippers can fail. What would you say that is, Lewis?
Well, whether it's the final reason, I'm sure there are many more, but for me, one of the big reasons is not understanding the numbers. And I learned this the hard way. I've talked about this in previous episodes, but early on in my business journey, I made some really big oversights when it came to measuring the profitability of my business. So understanding the ROAS, the return on ad spend, or really understanding our profitability versus our ad spend. So it's really easy to do when you are running a business like this, because at the very outset, you are wearing all of the hats. You're the chief marketing officer, you're the sales guy, you're the live chat person, you're the email support, you're the marketing manager, you are everything, right, when you first begin. So it's not surprising that entrepreneurs who maybe don't consider themselves numbers people, as I would class myself as one of those, I would say I'm not a numbers guy. But if things all look fine on the outside because you're making sales, you're making good revenue, you're making tens of thousands of pounds per month in sales, but if you're spending more to acquire a customer through your ad spend than you generate in profit, like if you're making £300 in profit per sale, but you're spending £300 in profit on ads, which can happen if you're not measuring these things right from day one, then say, for example, you get to the end of the month or the end of the quarter, you've not set aside enough money to pay your VAT bill. The thing is that these things may seem like they don't matter at small scale, because you might have a VAT bill and think, oh, we were a couple of £100 short for that versus what I predicted it would be, but that's okay. But then you multiply that by 10 and then multiply that by 100 when you start making tens of thousands of pounds per month, hundreds of thousands per month. It's very easy for a small oversight to land you in a position where, because you weren't managing your numbers from the outset, that small margin of error becomes quite a big end result. So I found myself personally in £20,000 worth of debt when we started really making sales, and so really ramping up our ad spend, because I was like thinking, oh, this is great, we're making sales, therefore let's scale. And entrepreneurship sometimes gets the people just want to scale at all costs. But what does scaling mean? Does scaling just mean scaling your top line revenue, or does it mean scaling your profit? Because you can't pay the bills with revenue, right? Your suppliers are not going to accept that you have to have the profit in the bank to be able to do that. And for me, it was down to not truly having a grasp on measuring the return on ad spend that we had, or our profit on marketing spend, as we prefer to view it. We try and look at things now on how much profit did we make from that marketing spend that we had. So after dedicating a lot of time to learning this stuff myself and really taking ownership over it and realizing that I have to understand these things, because even if I don't see myself as a numbers person, this is critical to succeeding with business. Eventually we came back from that point and the store went on to make millions of pounds in sales very profitably over the next few years. But now what I do is I use, and also in our program, we provide the exact steps from day one to start tracking and measuring profitability, VAT, marketing spend, so that you ensure that you're profitable right from the outset, right from month one, because it nearly cost me my business very early on. And if I had not taken that real ownership over the process myself and grasped those concepts so I could fully understand them, I don't think I would have still been in business. So I'm thankful that I did that just in time, and even more thankful that now I'm able to actually teach those things and pass those lessons on, so that the next me out there currently in that position doesn't hit the same brick wall that I nearly did.
Yeah, thank you for teaching me those lessons that you learned from your mistakes and failures in the past, because I didn't get into that situation where I was in debt. You obviously teach very clearly a model of like accrual accounting, where we're actually keeping an eye on the numbers day in, day out. And actually, we know as soon as we make every sale, we know how much we've made for that sale. So we can see whether we're profitable the whole way through. So you can notice something. If something's not right, or if you're not making money on sales, you'll know that straight away. There's no waiting for a month before it's too late. You can see that and make changes straight away, which is so important, because you're just not taught this sort of thing at school. There's no entrepreneurship lessons. There's no lessons about keeping your numbers and keeping books or anything like that. So you have to go out there and learn it from somewhere. Otherwise, it's so foreign, all this numbers thing, especially if you don't identify as like a numbers person either.
Yeah, it's a really good point, because oftentimes you might be listening to this now and think, how on earth did you get into that kind of a situation? Like, surely you can just make sure that the business is profitable from day one. But imagine this, if you're making 50,000 in sales in a month, and your supplier is giving you a nice big line of credit. So you're not actually seeing the cost of those sales leaving your bank account. So the 50,000 you made in sales is just sitting in your bank account, 50,000. But actually you might owe 25, 30,000 to a supplier, right? If you think, right, we're going to go big, we've got 50 grand in the bank now, we're going to blitz it on all of the ad platforms and hire someone else for the team and really scale up. Suddenly you might have spent that extra 20 and you're down to 5. All right, because you didn't, or you might have taken out the business and thought, I'm going to go buy a car and go on a nice holiday and, treat my family to something I've always wanted to. And there's nothing wrong with that. But doing it too early, it's very easy to get carried away when you see those big numbers in your bank account and I think, I've made it, I've done it, I've cracked the code. And then suddenly, the tax man comes knocking or suppliers come knocking and you realize, I wasn't there yet. I thought I was, but I wasn't. And it's really easily done, especially for a first-time entrepreneur. So yeah, we try and make sure that people understand that measuring that cash flow and build that delayed gratification. So it gets to the point where that could never happen again because you have a more than enough buffer of cash in your business account at any one time to weather those types of unexpected events.
So important, because the numbers really are the bottom line, and that's really what's going to put you out of business if you haven't got a keen eye on your numbers. So such an important point. So we've been through the main reasons now. It's really important that we now provide some actionable advice for people. How can they avoid these 5 reasons for people that fail? So let's go through each of them now. So initially we talked about how we can make sure you start with support in place. So how can people make sure they're around the right types of people to guarantee success?
Yeah, it's like I said earlier, it's don't try and build the house without the architect, surveyor, builder, plumber, electrician there with you. It's exactly the same with building your business. By joining an e-commerce community such as forums or Facebook groups, things like that, you find those like-minded people that you can connect with. You ask for their advice when you get stuck. You consult with experts. And it's just like you would when you're building a house. You wouldn't try and go and learn each of those things individually and spend years. You do that in business by finding mentors or coaches or people who can guide you through the process and growing your business because they've done it hundreds of times before.
Yeah, and there's plenty of places. We're fortunate now with the online world that there are plenty of places where we can get into groups of people that are all going for the same goals. So it's so important for people to do that and give themselves the best chance for success. We've also talked about how to avoid being a one-hit wonder and to build a sustainable long-term income stream. So how can people make sure that they don't fall into that pitfall as well?
Well, as we said, instead of just selling products, you're focusing on building your brand and you're prioritizing customer service and satisfaction so that you can build that loyal customer base that will just keep coming back. Yeah, don't be the one-hit wonder. Be the artist that grows that loyal fan base so that every year that you release a new album or song, you're straight in the charts. It's the same thing with building a business.
And we can do that through referral schemes or making sure you're hiring brilliant customer service, virtual assistants. There's many ways that we can do to make sure we're focusing on building a long-term brand that's going to outlast us. So another one we talked about today was making sure that we're selling the right products. It's going to be huge for the business. So how can we make sure that people are immediately selling the right products from the very start?
Well, the first thing that you would do is market research to identify the profitable niches and the products that are in demand. So we're looking at search demand, supplier availability, price consistency, seasonality, like all of these factors that we mentioned. And I think there's about 9 of them in our program in week 2 that we kind of just guide you through step by step what the thresholds are, how we do it. You look over the shoulder at my screen as I'm going through doing this research, showing you how we would do it. You can use tools like Google Trends and look at Amazon bestsellers and social media analytics, and you're just using it to gain insights into what people are buying, what they're interested in, and what they will continue to be interested in so that you can build that brand. And remember, by doing that, it's like stepping up to the dartboard, taking the blindfold off and knowing exactly where you're throwing it so that you hit that bullseye first time, or at least get very close to it, or at least hit the board, right? Versus just aimlessly throwing in the dark.
Yeah, so important that people go with the right niche from the very start. So as well, we talked about making sure there's a plan in place. And also with that, I think having a routine in place is so important so that it's very easy for you to stay disciplined and grow a business. So how can we give sort of specific advice over putting a plan in place and following a plan to success?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of the 12-week year book that we mentioned in previous episodes, but that's something that I really enjoy the process of breaking down a big plan into actionable chunks and steps. And so that's kind of how we've built the program. It's very much step by step. You go through, you tick something off as you move through. And having that clear plan, those measurable goals, those milestones, is like, getting into the car with the person that you're heading on the road trip with and putting the destination into the sat nav. It's the same thing. It's like, where you're going, so therefore you can measure, well, what's our ETA? How far are we from the destination? And so with business, don't just jump into it without having a clear goal in mind. Know what you're trying to achieve so you can set a clear plan to actually get there.